Welcome to the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast from Never Too Late Cafe. I'm your host, Laura Womack. Each week, we sit down for a chat with someone just like you, someone who had an idea, a passion, a dream, or sometimes just a thought, and planted that seed, watched it grow into something they wanted to share with the world. If you have an idea for a topic or someone that would be a guest for the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, where you can join our Never Too Late Cafe Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you. Hello, everyone, and this is Laura Womack from Never Too Late Cafe with the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast. And I have a very special guest with me today, and that's Oliver Sayani. Did I say it correct?
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thanks for having me.
You are currently living in Louisville, Kentucky?
I'm currently living in Rutherford County, Tennessee.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I actually just moved like about a week or two ago, so it's really new. Actually, I think the last time I saw you, I was living in Louisville just a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's why I've been getting confused about that time difference. You know, that's why I was talking to you about that.
So are you in a different time zone?
I am. It's so weird because Louisville is west of where I am, but for some reason Louisville is Eastern time and where I am is in Central time. So it's still getting me confused. I still need some time to get a hang of it.
Geographically, that doesn't make sense.
Right. The time zone just goes boom, diagonal.
Oh, I didn't know that. So how'd you end up in Tennessee?
Well, I'm originally from Tennessee, from Cumberland Gap in the eastern part of the state. And so I grew up there and ended up my kind of way to get out of my little hometown and pursue music and other interests that I had at the time was through college. That's how I ended up at U of L in Louisville.
Okay, so what town did you say you're in now?
So now I'm in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and the reason I'm here now is MTSU, Middle Tennessee State, is located here. So I carried on with my education to start my master's degree now in audio production, and this is a big hub of production, and it's a big feeder school to the Nashville industry. So I didn't think I'd be going into that when I first, started out a long time ago. I always thought, well, Nashville is not really for me. Well, I still, have roots, everywhere else, like in Eastern Tennessee and Eastern Kentucky. So now just kind of fate has decided that I'm going to start recording in Nashville.
So you went to the University of Louisville and you took audio engineering there as well? Is that
actually, I started out in engineering school, regular engineering, thought that's what I wanted to do. My parents wanted me to do that. And I realized that I had a tendency to play music, and I've always had that. But I decided I wanted to really go into it and moved into the jazz studies school in Louisville, the Jamie Abersol program, and did that for a few years before switching to their brand new music and new media program, which is a technology, like a music technology degree, which is what I ended up with.
Well, it looks like you have done a lot of different things in your so you also teach. So what do you teach? What instrument?
I teach guitar. Mostly guitar. I've taught piano before for mostly for beginners. But yeah, I'm a guitar teacher and music theory. The other day, somebody, actually a gentleman that was at the Wood Songs workshop that I met you at. His daughter was going to UK and had a theory lesson coming up, and needs help with it. So I gave her a theory lesson the other day, and that was kind of like what I was kind of excited about the other day, is that I kind of like helped her get a grasp on this hard theory stuff for her test today. So I'm fingers crossed that she passed. Her quiz was today. I think she'll do a good job based on the way our lesson went. It went really well. So yeah,
I saw he had put a sort of a feel out there. Can someone help? Well, I'm glad. That was a great connection then. So what other instruments do you play? You said guitar and piano. Was there something about saxophone?
Yes, my first instrument was the saxophone. I learned it in band, and put it down for a few years, and then picked it up later on when a gig presented itself in Louisville. It's an awesome instrument. You know, I'd love to spend more time with it, but it's a great instrument. And the lady who taught me initially, Linda Smitty, was my first saxophone teacher and my first piano teacher as well. She's one of my biggest influences. So I wanted to mention her as well on here.
Yeah.
Because she was an amazing teacher that we were all lucky to have at the time.
And that was in Louisville, Kentucky?
No, that was in Cumberland Gap, at Cumberland Gap High School.
Okay. All right. Oh, that's right. So I'm trying to follow you geographically. So you're also a songwriter. When did that start for you? Because, a lot of people play an instrument, but they don't necessarily compose, but you do. And I did hear a song of yours that you did. That was awesome. I don't want to mention it in case you're still working on it to do something with it. So when did that start for you?
It's been a long time coming with songwriting. I've always done it. I don't think I've always been like a natural at it. I've not always been like good at putting together the music and the lyrics, but it takes a lot of practice, just like anything else, of course. A lot of, how a lot of people say, I listen to lyrics or I listen to the music first. People kind of have a preference of that. I'm like really strongly about both of them. I really I want a song to have a really good melody, and I want the words to be really good too. They don't have to be very deep and philosophical necessarily, but just something that's well put together. And the first song I ever wrote was the first year that I played guitar. It came very, very soon. I immediately started putting notes together and starting to put lyrics to it. But then it took like a good, probably 5 to 7 years of just continuing to do that process, putting a riff with some lyrics, and a few albums later, I feel like I now feel comfortable with it, where it's a creative outlet and has become a main part of main channel of art that I create.
So you've recorded, you said albums?
My first album that I wrote, well, me and aside from the ones that me and my friends made growing up, which was basically just a flip phone, recording in a room usually was the shed in our backyard where we learned music initially. Aside from all those recordings which we have, the first kind of legit album, we made one out of my dorm room in college. And it was kind of like I made all the instrumental parts to it. I was kind of like the producer in a sense. And then I had a guy kind of doing this funky hip hop vocal over it. That was like the first project. After that, I formed my own band. Blind Feline is together, but we've had different members and different kind of versions of the band. In the very earliest stages, we made a 3 or 4 track demo that at the time I thought, this is awesome. I've listened back to it and be like, that was the worst thing ever. So then fast forward, we with that same band, I made another album that I finally was proud of, at least the songwriting aspect of it. I still like the songs that are on the record. I think we could have played it better and everything. That's me being critical. But it's called Lost in the Moss by Blind Feline. And so that one kind of is a nature-based psychedelic rock concept album, so to speak. Then after that, we released another EP called Cicadas. I felt like they got more and more cohesive over time. Cicadas was a really like solid piece of, songs that flow into one another and all have kind of a common theme. And we released a few singles after that and are working on mixing. We're finished with our upcoming album with Blind Feline. It's going to be called Kentucky Drifter. So that's one to be looking out for.
So how did you come up with that name, Blind Feline?
Oh yeah, that's a story that I don't always get to tell.
Okay.
Back in school, in high school, I had a teacher for biology who was a wild card, and inspired a lot of songs. A lot of people that I ran into that kind of were different like that had inspired a lot of songs in me. And he inspired that name because we had a girl in class who was the niece of this kind of this character, this legendary, according to legend, this guy named Buck, who called himself the king of the world or the king of the mountain. And so my teacher, when she would come into class, he would ask her, how's Buck doing? How's my friend Buck? And eventually one day we asked, what's the story with Buck? You're always asking about him. He has a funny name. Buck is going to be one of the songs on our new album, by the way, coming out.
Okay.
It tells that story. But yeah, so he one day told the story of Buck. And Buck was a moonshiner from East Tennessee, and he was running his liquor and got caught one time, or he almost got caught. The story goes they made a roadblock down at the bottom of this holler, and he came flying down. He saw them and ditched his car, jumped out of his truck full of shine, and the truck went barreling into the roadblock. Boom, exploded all their cars, and he goes running off into the woods with like tattered clothes and everything from the explosion, with flames behind him, running like a wild man, screaming, I'm the king of the world, I'm the king of the world. And he ran off and lived off grid and had all his animals and stuff living with him up on the ridge in Fort Ridge, Tennessee. And according to the story, he had stolen this baby wildcat out of its nest, and raised it at his own. This baby wildcat with a scratch right through its eye, grew up blind in one eye, and that's the story of Blind Feline.
So Buck's going to be on the album. That's cool. So he inspired you. So you've had different things that you've done. You are also an event planner.
Yes. Event planning started out as just looking for shows and learning how to be a DIY musician, essentially.
Mhm.
Those skills have helped me I've worked for certain organizations that, that I've done that type of work with, where, for example, I worked with a meditation organization. It's really a health organization. And I planned meditation events and facilitated them and facilitated workshops and things like that, or just planned them for U of L. But really, it just came with just being a DIY musician. And one of the things you have to do is get all your work together, get your kind of like musical resume together, and reach out to venues and bars and reach out to other musicians that you'll be sharing bills with. So really, it came from doing that, just doing that like a wild man, just continually working on making the presentation better and making planning and your communication as good as possible.
You also worked at recording studios?
Yes, ma'am. I've been working in recording studios for a long time now, just trying to learn as a musician, and then kind of getting into that audio engineering degree, learning how to go into other fields of audio, like podcasting and things for movies. And so yeah, I've volunteered and worked with studios and trying to get my hands on the technology. Technology is really it has not come easy for me. I've always been like an artistic type of person, and wanting to get my hands on the instruments and sing, play, and write. But the technology side, I figured, I want to get involved with that. So I've tried to work hard. I had to work with a lot of studios to get myself ready for that.
So what is Overtones Live? Is that a show?
Yeah, Overtones Live is a podcast, actually.
Okay.
It's a podcast, but it's kind of like a different type of podcast. It does some like conversational stuff that typical podcasts do, but it's really music based, and it's all about just highlighting talent, specifically in the Appalachian area. And I've been on their show as an artist a couple of times, and through that I was asked to be a guest host one day when they were interviewing another artist. And then through that, the opportunity came to be the host of kind of my own version of Overtones Live, which is based in Louisville. They needed a Louisville location. So since I had been there for 5 years, I was chosen to do that. So the whole goal of that is get artists on the air on radio stations all across the state. We work with 5 different radio stations, I believe. And not only get those, established artists to create, an actual live event where people come in and enjoy watching the radio show being recorded. But then also I plan on going to the younger artists, and as I discover more of the younger generation of young Kentucky artists, to get them a platform to play music, just like I was given a platform when I was just starting out.
Wow. So is the Women of Kentucky Music, is that part of Overtones?
Yes, it is.
So you're going to host that, is that correct?
I'll be hosting one of the series of that. They have several ladies on that in different locations for this month. And so, yeah, my Overtones Live in Louisville episode is going to be September 12th at Zanzibar, featuring Katie Did It of Mama Says String Band. So that's going to be one of several Women of Kentucky series.
So how far is Louisville from where you're at in Tennessee?
I'm about 3 hours away.
Oh, that's kind of the same that it is for me. So, um, okay, tell me about a rap battle in Huntington. What was that about?
So well, that was, it's funny. It's funny that you asked that. It's really funny that you asked that. Um, I'm really tempted to just make up a story about how there was some crazy rap battle in Huntington. But in reality, a good friend of mine, Becky Owens, took me out to the Loud in Huntington for this show and said, you just need to come and see this. She'd been wanting to meet me and vice versa. We have a lot of mutual friends. Mm-hmm. And we're both, I guess you could say, we're both pretty spontaneous as far as kind of what we get ourselves into. So when I was invited to go out to Huntington and see a lot of these artists that I was familiar with, some of which I'm friends with, I just wanted to go and experience that. And I ended up going and hitting it off with one of my, we already had a good relationship, but we were out jamming in the back with my friend Travis Napier, a great artist who I met through Overtones actually. And he had me up on stage to sit in with him. So it was a really great event musically and with friendships. And so that rap battle was kind of, my friend Becky getting wild with her imagination and what I was with what I was saying to one of the artists. I got to meet a lot of new guys or new to me people, and and when I hear people's art and it inspires me and it's exciting, I like to go and talk to them. I don't remember exactly what I was saying at that moment to Abe, but Abe has got this awesome song about being abducted by aliens. And so it was probably something about that. I was commenting about his song about being abducted by aliens. So go look that up if you get a chance.
What's Abe's last name?
Partridge. Abe Partridge is his name.
It sounds funny. So how far would Huntington be from you in Tennessee?
It was a good little bit. I remember I was already in Louisville that weekend for shows, and then I drove an hour to Lexington, got a ride from there. So 3, maybe 4 or 5 hours from where I am. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because just going east to west, Huntington's probably about an hour from here, but it's north of where you're at. So this podcast is called Bloom Where You're Planted. And I always ask people what that means to them because it's different for everybody.
What that says to me, my interpretation is that we don't always get a choice of, what we were born with. We don't get a choice for a lot of things. A lot of things is the cards we've been dealt in life. But I think that a lot of things in life we do have a choice to do, and that's to bloom. I think that we can water ourselves. We can give ourselves the nutrients that we need, whether that's physically or spiritually. I know, for example, that Huntington trip it felt like I was enriching my life with friendship and music and spontaneity, something that I wouldn't normally do. And it brought this energy with me that I took back home and said, I felt like I was continuing to bloom and grow. So that's kind of that's my interpretation, is we can always choose to grow and bloom.
So what kind of words of wisdom would you give to someone that wants to do what you are doing or have done?
I'll definitely say keep some good people around you. I'm a believer in the obvious stuff, work really hard. You have to work hard, especially as an artist. Ron Whitehead, a friend of ours, said something to me one time, like an artist has to work. I can't remember the exact analogy. It was like you have to work like you're a lunatic. I mean, pretty much. And that's very true, but I think it's easy to forget. Keep good people around you, treat people good. Because that's definitely helped me a lot. I attribute anything that I have done so far to the support that I've had from great people around me. First and foremost, my parents. They've done so much for me. They've worked so hard for me that it's inspired me, and it's given me this responsibility to work really hard. So, young artists, work hard, be grateful, and keep good people around you.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Well, Oliver, I so enjoy talking to you, and it's been awesome. And I'm sure someone's going to really enjoy some of the things that you've shared and your words of wisdom. And I thank you again. It's been a pleasure to have you on the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast. So thank you so much.
Likewise.
And so this is Laura Womack from the Never Too Late Cafe Bloom Where You're Planted podcast. And I'm saying bye for now. And thanks again, Oliver.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.